Hey guys, Zack here, and welcome to the Saffron Academy podcast. The objective of this podcast is to be an additional educational resource for our viewers. Saffron Finance does not endorse the viewpoints shared in these conversations, nor should this be construed as any kind of financial advice. But we are interested in giving exposure to a wide range of brilliant investors, developers, entrepreneurs, traders, and so much more. If you have an idea for a topic or particular guest request, feel free to write into the show at dingo@saffron.finance. I hope you guys enjoy this, and we are looking forward to seeing what kind of value this provides. Today's guest is Mike Hendley, the co-founder of DeFi Omega. In this episode, we talk about how Mike got his start in crypto, the founding of DeFi Omega, his outlook for Saffron Finance going forward, and a lot more. We had a great time recording this episode, and I hope you all enjoy. So, as you guys know, I'm Zack, and I'm joined here today with Mike Hendley, and we're going to dive right into it. Mike, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Zack.
Of course. And Mike, we'll talk about DeFi Omega in just a sec. But before we do, I'd love to hear a little bit about the start of your DeFi journey. You know, what was your first experience and how did you get into the space initially?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So I think I'll take a little bit of a step back and start off when I first got into crypto, which was in 2013. I was living in West Palm Beach at the time. And, I was a really active user on Reddit, among other things. And interestingly enough, I kept seeing Bitcoin pop up. And, with a lot of things, you see something a few times, you kind of ignore it. And then maybe after the, 10th or 15th time, I said, okay, what the heck? What the heck is Bitcoin?
Yeah.
So I finally decided to take a look at it and start reading about it and researching it. And I think, anyone who really gets into this space, once you get in it, you really get into it, right? So, yeah, from then, I believe, trying to think of the subreddit name. From there, I kind of jumped into, I think it was Bitcoin markets, and, really just started reading as much as possible. And I think what really captivated me at that time, Julian Assange was kind of, really starting to talk about it with WikiLeaks getting huge, and after their payment processors were revoked. Can't remember the year exactly, but obviously that was a whole new era for Bitcoin. And actually, Satoshi, even in Bitcoin Talk, said that that really worried him. That was very concerning to him. He said, I think they kicked the hornet's nest now, and he kind of went dark after that. But it really, among other things, with like Laszlo buying pizza. Obviously, the Silk Road played a role in Bitcoin becoming basically a currency used for goods and services. But WikiLeaks was a whole new era in Bitcoin. So anyway, kind of, jumping forward a bit, I started just getting into Bitcoin, every single minute, it seems like. Really active on Bitcoin Talk, got on Coinbase for the very first time in 2013. It looked very, very different than it does today, but just as exciting, really. And it was just getting started. So I think my first Bitcoin was probably around like $200. And I don't know if you want me to keep going. I can keep on going forever because that's just the very first part.
Yeah, I think that a lot of us have had that moment, when they first start to get into Bitcoin and you start to get really involved. But, I don't know if you have heard of the guy, but Mark Cuban, he's always talking about how, the advent of smart contracts and Ethereum, it was kind of like a big game changer for a lot of people. It got a lot of people who weren't interested or kind of had some doubts about blockchain technology. It piqued their interest. So I was just wondering, what was your perception when that started to happen? Obviously, it's a little bit more down the road, but
Yeah, sure. So absolutely. So I guess this is probably a good segue for me to kind of just briefly continue my background in my journey. So, all right. So we will fast forward to the what's it called? The big Mount Gox hack, which happened, which I was there for and witnessed, and that was pretty huge. Obviously, it was kind of a big blow to the entire space. I think a lot of us it was similar to the 2018 kind of like bear market, right? So a lot of us kind of were keeping a close eye on the space, but obviously it was a big hit to a lot of us, I think. So kept a very, very close eye, but yeah, it was it was like a cooling off period, right? So we'll fast forward to I actually did miss the Ethereum ICO. I remember that, had the opportunity, one of my huge regrets, but so that was happening, and then fast forward to 2016. I was really active trading on Poloniex, and Poloniex was so fun, man. It was just amazingly fun. We had the troll box. It was just when I first got on Poloniex, comparing it to other exchanges at that time, it was like you were in the cockpit of an F-16 or something. I mean, it was just so much going on. It was so cool. And I was lucky enough to get Ethereum, around, I think, $3 and $7 at that time. So it was really exciting. And at that time, Ethereum Factum, which was FCT, and a few others people were really bullish on. MadeSafe, actually. Those were the three in early 2016. Yeah. MadeSafe, Factum, and Ethereum, everyone was super bullish on. We all know what happened with Ethereum, obviously. But so that's kind of like where the altcoin, where altcoin trading got immensely popular was Poloniex in those early days, with Ethereum kind of leading the way. And was very involved in that time. I actually had what was it called? The DAO tokens. There was the big DAO hack for Ethereum, and then you had basically we witnessed the birth of Ethereum Classic. I started ETC Miner that same night when that new chain was born, because everybody was basically selling off Ethereum Classic because it was free. It was just completely free. And I remember people talking about it on the troll box. And I said, guys, you know what? I actually think this might be kind of valuable. So started kind of getting involved with that. Then from ETC, ETC Miner, went on to do many different things, principally investing. I was also, kind of a portfolio manager for some high net worth individuals. And since then, I've worked for exchanges and consulting firms and all sorts of stuff. But basically, I just really, really am super passionate about this space. And I think, with DeFi, and feel free to cut me off at any time because I'll keep talking.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I will at a point.
I was just going to say, with the difference between what we saw, well, one of the principal differences between what we saw in 2017 and what we're seeing now is there was just such a gap between the hype and the technology, right? And now with DeFi, everything that, well, most of all of these things that people were talking about in these white papers, it's actually a reality now. People are actually building things and doing things and having these decentralized apps and using it on a daily basis and, lending out their capital and making passive income. And I mean, just the creativity and innovation in DeFi is just so absolutely tremendous. It's really, really incredible. And
Yeah, no, not to cut you off, but I mean, I think
no,
it is really cool. That's a great point you touched on, that, things kind of went from look at all these cool ideas and things that we could do to look at all of these things that are happening now.
100%.
But yeah, so let's dive in a little bit more to DeFi Omega. So just for people who don't know, if you kind of wanted to give a layman's explanation or kind of a quick summary of what DeFi Omega is.
Sure, absolutely. So DeFi Omega is an influencer and investor coalition, and it's recognized in the industry, I think, as by certain people as one of the most important amalgamations of individuals in DeFi. I mean, we have founders from some of the most important DeFi protocols, CEOs, journalists, entrepreneurs, fund managers like ex-Wall Street bankers, New York Times bestselling authors, a lot of fantastic, crypto Twitter influencers, crypto Twitter YouTubers, professional traders, researchers, analysts, the list goes on. But, I think the most important thing is we're a very tight-knit, close community that really supports each other. We're super passionate about the space. We're super passionate about financial sovereignty. We're super passionate about kind of, advancing policy and, kind of, I guess, like a think tank in certain ways as well. But yeah, I mean, so, basically our goal is to assist anyone in DeFi really trying to make a difference, really trying to innovate, really trying to, move this space forward in a positive direction. So, we regard ourselves as a very prestigious organization. We were actually just featured in Masari, I believe, yesterday. So we're really, really, really proud about that.
That's awesome, man. Congrats.
Thank you, Zack. And I think a lot of entities rely on flashy marketing and stuff like that. And I think since we started last year, we've really, really focused on just kind of picking the best, brightest, passionate, most talented individual.
Yeah, let me cut you off right there, actually, because this is something that I think we touched on earlier with Mt. Gox. And, I think that a lot of the time, crypto or DeFi, kind of all of blockchain technology, anything in the space, it gets a bad rap sometimes because I think a lot of mainstream just reads the headlines of, people lose X amount of Bitcoin or whatever it was. And so I just noticed that, on your guys' Medium posts, et cetera, you really seem from the languaging to have a very strong set of values, whether it's ethics or loyalty, prestige, honor. I can tell that those are really important to you guys. And I was just wondering, kind of how you got there and how, and why rather all those values are so important to you guys, because I know we see a lot of people that those values are not only not important to them, but may very well be entirely absent.
Sure. No, that's a great question, and really appreciate the kind words. Yeah, this is something that, again, we're very, very proud of. You make a great point in that a lot of times you'll see headlines of, this exploit happened, or, this protocol got hacked in DeFi and stuff like that. And we have to remember, we're still so nascent with what's happening. I mean, people will look back on this time, in my opinion, and see that it really was the turning point. Like, we're truly on the precipice of something so game changing, so truly revolutionary that I think people don't quite get that yet. But speaking to your point about, there are bad actors in the space. There are bad actors in crypto and in DeFi, as in every kind of sector. But with any emerging technology where there's a lot of capital, you're going to see scammers and you're going to see people, taking advantage of the system, unfortunately. But, one thing where DeFi Omega feels like very, very proud of is that we do really uphold, strong values, like you were talking about: integrity, loyalty, um, benevolence, and that's why kind of our group is so tight knit, I believe, because a lot of people are just in it for themselves, right? And we actually want to help people. We actually want to inspire people, change people's lives for the better. And you can do that. You can do that in DeFi, and you can do that in crypto, right? I mean, like if you just look at what Gitcoin is doing, they're doing fantastic work. There's a lot of really incredibly passionate, great people in this space, and those are just the type of people that we want to, surround ourselves with, because it's kind of like who you surround yourself with, you start to become. So there's kind of this whole moon boy degen attitude that's very prevalent in DeFi, and it's fun, like sometimes that sort of thing can be fun, like with your friends and stuff. But I think if you're looking long term, in the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, I mean, DeFi is something like, if you look at everything the Winklevoss twins have done, and just all of these, like Parify's great, like all of these entities, they're taking DeFi very seriously. And I think that is very important to us as well, because looking into the next 5 years, looking into the next 10 years, I mean, it's going to be a real force to be reckoned with, in my opinion. And I think it's going to change a lot. So we're just kind of trying to make the best coalition of individuals we can right now, because we know in the future, the connections you make with great people right now, this is only going to get bigger. So I think, we're very excited about that.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I mean, I think that those values will eventually win out, and I think that it's really going to help with mainstream adoption too, to have entities like DeFi Omega that can kind of prove that those values matter in this space. But I did do some reading. I saw you guys started a project called Stronghold recently. I believe it went live just in late March. If you want to just tell me a little bit more about that, that would be awesome.
Sure. Yeah, so it's not quite a project. But it's basically, our incubator and accelerator that we recently, just basically announced or unveiled. We are very excited about it. Have a lot of amazing applicants, and we're talking with a lot of projects right now that we think are very, very, very talented. They're offering something very compelling, and I think they'll be quite attractive to people in this space. So I'll keep it kind of short and sweet on that one, but super excited. And thank you, Zach.
Yeah, of course, man, for sure. And then also, obviously it is the Saffron Academy podcast, so it'd be remiss if I didn't ask. But I know our founder, Sai, is involved with DeFi Omega, and you guys have known each other. Just tell me a little bit about how you guys first connected and your relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. Sai Keeper is just such a fantastic individual. He fits right in with all the values we were talking about. Super, super smart, super passionate, loves the space, loves his community. And, we think we were lucky enough to learn about Saffron very early. I believe much, much earlier than most everyone. And, since day one, we've been very, very excited about what they're doing. And, I think one thing about Saffron that is so commendable is that they're always working. They're always doing something to basically advance, their product, advance their community. And, with just all the news this year that they've, everything they've accomplished, it's just I mean, it's just amazing, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, definitely one of the main reasons that attracted me to the company is the founder. And it really starts from the top going on down. And so totally agree with everything you said, though we don't want it to go to Sai's head too much, showering all the praise. So, also, just another thing that's happening in the crypto space, DeFi space, that I wanted to ask you about is obviously the explosion of NFTs and the NFT
Yeah.
market. Just wanted to hear a little bit about your kind of general opinion about what's going on there, maybe where it's going to go long term, or your take on the whole situation.
Yeah, this is a great question. So yeah, NFTs are super super interesting for many different reasons, and I think obviously everybody knows NFTs. NFTs and art, right? Like most people think of NFTs as art right now. I think the vast majority of people, who are hearing about NFTs associate with them with art, and it's one implementation of NFTs, and I think it's kind of the easiest way to digest the concept of non fungible tokens with art. And it's almost like I saw someone, I believe, on Twitter say it's like a gateway drug for kind of the the average everyday person who's not familiar with crypto or DeFi, kind of like the gateway to crypto. And I own a lot of NFT artwork, and I think it's fantastic, and I love it. But I think we are seeing, kind of like a temporary cooling off period with NFT artwork. Perhaps the Beeple sale was, kind of the local top there, but I don't think it's going anywhere, right? I don't think NFT and art is going anywhere. I do think we're entering a new stage, a new era with NFTs where people will start to see that the utility of NFTs can be far greater than just artwork. And I think we're seeing that, with projects like Visor. They're doing some really interesting things. And I think that NFT infrastructure is going to be big. NFT platforms and infrastructure like what Scott Lewis and NFTX, what they're doing, super super interesting stuff. I think Genesis Shards, what they're doing is super interesting. So yeah, I think we'll start to have a new era of maturity with kind of the infrastructure plays and NFTs, and I think that's kind of where uh, the new cycle will be. And I think it'll be its own category, right? Like NFT utilities. I think we'll start to see. I think we'll start to see that. So it's definitely a very exciting time. And I think with Uniswap version 3 coming out, I think we'll see a DeFi V2, kind of like a DeFi summer, reprise. Probably be a lot bigger than the original DeFi summer. And just kind of like circling back to Saffron, I think they're a prime candidate for experiencing really explosive growth. Not only did Dragonfly and Coinbase Ventures invest in Saffron, but I know that just basically how their tranches are formulated, it's going to be very attractive to a lot of DeFi investors, and I think in particular Saffron with its token metrics, like that's something very attractive to investors, right? I mean, because there's a smaller quantity of tokens, this is something that a lot of speculators, really, really, appreciate things like that, right? So I think that everything that they have going on in the back end, just how dedicated they are to really building products that people not only use, but like they keep coming back and they're seeing that really nice APY. I think again, I'm a bit biased, but I'm really, really excited for Saffron this year.
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't biased myself. So that's awesome, man. So I'm going to let you go at the end of this question. This is the last one I got for you, and you can get as specific as you want. But, where do you see DeFi, let's say 5 years from now? Just kind of, I wouldn't say near future, but a little bit longer than that. And more specifically, do you think that some of those bad actors or some of those headlines are going to stop that mainstream adoption curve? Or do you think that, things are going to continue kind of a little bit more smoothly? Just wondering where you think we're going to be down the road.
Yeah. This is also a great question. Appreciate all your great questions, Zach.
Thanks.
Yeah. So, it's very, very difficult to predict, the next 5 years, let alone, I guess, the next 5 weeks. But,
yeah.
but I will say, I anticipate DeFi kind of going into down two paths, right? I almost see it like a path that is more of a kind of hybrid corporate structure, right? Like I think we'll see kind of a marriage between DeFi and a more corporate side. And I think this is something that maybe crypto fundamentalists won't like, but I think in terms of global adoption, it could be almost a necessity, right? And if we're talking about regulations and everything like that. And then I think there might be another side, which may be like a kind of like a resistance side where like, if you look at people that are really into Monero, or some of these projects that are, very much about, privacy and everything like that. And, kind of like staying true to the crypto manifesto type of thing. I think we could see that with DeFi as well. So, I think that's the thing about this whole movement, right? It's so experimental, and there's various kind of factions that are very, very, very kind of like passionate about their own beliefs, right? So I think in a lot of ways it depends on what investors are kind of like flocking to, but I think ultimately what will kind of what will become extremely prevalent is like kind of the first part I mentioned, which will be kind of like a next generation DeFi that's kind of has like this a little bit of like a corporate marriage, right? But I mean, I guess this brings up a whole new point about, like how decentralized, how like is pure decentralization possible, and if so, what does that look like? There's a bevy of questions this raises, but I just think ultimately we'll have things like Aave and all these other protocols, which can basically utilize the principles of DeFi, really, really empower individuals, and for them to have, basically financial sovereignty, but also are, compliant from a regulatory standpoint, right? And then I think kind of everybody wins there. And I think that's probably what we'll see in the next 5 years. And if we're at $2 trillion in terms of total market capitalization currently, I think the market capitalization that we will see in 5 years will truly blow everybody's minds. I think it's going to surprise everybody. I think it's going to be just absolutely wild.
Awesome, man. Yeah, sorry to hit you with such a general question there.
No.
So what do you think of DeFi?
It's great, man. And I just, I've met some of my best friends that I've ever made in this space. And there's just so many wonderful people in this space. And I just think it's so amazing. I feel very grateful. I think that, the amount of creativity and innovation programming these complex, financial protocols, it's just like, it just blows my mind, man. I think it's so amazing. And I think that, it's just going to be a really, really exciting future for all of us. Of course, I think there'll be good times and bad times. There won't be bull markets forever. There won't be bear markets forever. But ultimately, on a long enough timeline, if you look at Bitcoin, if you look at Ethereum, the chart is really just, you really couldn't get more bullish than that. So, yeah, really, really excited. And thank you so much for having me.
Of course, man. Seriously, Mike, I personally think that all of those values you guys hold up over at DeFi Omega are actually just what the space needs. And listen, we appreciate you coming on and joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Zach. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning into this week's episode. If you've enjoyed this podcast, be sure to go and rate us on iTunes and follow us on Twitter at Saffron Finance _. We also have communities on Discord and Telegram, and you can find the links to those in the show notes. We'll see you guys next time.